5 years had passed since Evie set out in pursuit of her dreams, and now she was back, but she wasn't alone. She returned engaged to Martin, a mysterious man whom no one in the family seemed to know. During the wedding dinner, Martin made a startling revelation. "You don't know me, but I know all of you." What he was about to reveal would change everything. Hello, my friends. I am Linda, and this is Linda's Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. In the small coastal town where Evie grew up, her family's mansion was an imposing landmark. With its meticulously tended gardens and panoramic ocean view, the house was the pride of Catherine and Richard, Evie's parents. From childhood, Evie was known for her free spirit and her passion for music, traits that often clashed with the expectations of her traditional family. At 22, Evie was a young woman of radiant beauty, with long wavy hair and expressive eyes. Her personality was an intriguing mix of sweetness and determination. Despite having been raised in a privileged environment, Evie always demonstrated a genuine empathy for people of all backgrounds. On a sunny summer afternoon, Evie finally gathered the courage to announce her decision to the family. The sound of waves crashing on the nearby beach seemed to echo the turmoil in her heart as she entered the living room, where her parents were. "Mum? Dad," Evie began, her voice trembling slightly. "I've decided not to go to university anymore. I want to follow my dream of becoming a composer." The silence that followed was deafening. Catherine, an elegant woman in her 50s, looked at her daughter with a mixture of shock and disappointment. Richard, a successful businessman, frowned, his expression full of disapproval. "Evie, dear," Catherine finally spoke, her voice calm but tense. "Do you have any idea what you're saying? A university education is essential for your future." Richard added, his deep voice laden with concern. "We've always dreamed of seeing you follow the family's footsteps in managing the business. Music is a lovely hobby, but it is not a stable career." Evie took a deep breath, feeling a mix of nervousness and determination. "I understand your concerns, but music is not just a hobby for me. It's my passion, my life. I need to try. I need to see how far I can go." In the days that followed, the tension in the house was palpable. Evie spent hours in her room, composing melodies that expressed her internal struggle between love for her family and the desire to follow her own path. Catherine and Richard alternated between attempts to dissuade her and moments of resigned silence. Finally, one morning, Evie left. With a suitcase full of clothes and a notebook of sheet music, she left the seaside mansion, her heart heavy but determined. The capital, with its bright lights and endless possibilities, awaited her. The first few months in the big city were an emotional rollercoaster for Evie. She rented a small apartment in the city's artistic neighbourhood, a stark contrast to the luxurious mansion of her childhood. The apartment was cramped, with thin walls that let through the sound of the neighbours, but for Evie, it was a palace of freedom. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Evie dove headfirst into the world of music. She frequented bars and cafes where musicians performed, absorbing every note, every lyric. At night, sitting by the window of her small apartment, she composed, letting her emotions flow through melodies and words. During this time, Evie kept in touch with her family through phone calls, but visits were rare. Besides being a songwriter, Evie had gotten a job at a famous music production company. 5 years after her departure, Evie made a call that would change everything. With her heart racing, she dialed a familiar number. "Mom?" Evie said, her voice trembling with emotion. "I have news to share." Catherine, on the other end of the line, immediately sensed the importance in her daughter's tone of voice. "What is it, dear? Is everything okay?" "Yes, Mum, everything is great." Evie took a deep breath before continuing. I'm getting married, next week at the courthouse." The silence on the other end of the line was broken by Catherine's exclamation of surprise. "Married? But to whom? Evie, you never told us about being in a serious relationship." Evie bit her lip, hesitant. His name is Martin. He's a musician in the capital's symphony orchestra. We've been together for a few years. Catherine, overcoming the initial shock, let her organising nature take over. At the registry office? No, that's not going to happen. Evie, dear, let me organise a proper party here at home. Your father and I would be so happy to see you get married here where you grew up. Evie was surprised by her mother's enthusiastic reaction. Part of her had feared rejection or disapproval. I don't know, Mum. I would have to talk to Martin. Please do that, Catherine insisted. I promise I will make everything perfect. It will be the celebration you deserve. After hanging up, Evie shared the conversation with Martin. He hugged her, his eyes shining with love and understanding. If it's important to you and your family, let's do it, he said gently. Besides, it's about time they got to know me, don't you think? Evie called her mother back, agreeing to the plans for the wedding in her hometown. The following week, the Thompson mansion was in an uproar. Catherine, always efficient, had mobilised her entire network of contacts to organise a wedding fit for royalty in record time. The mansion's garden, with a view of the ocean, was transformed into a fairy tale setting, with white and gold flowers adorning every surface. Evie and Martin arrived only on the day of the wedding. Evie was greeted by her mother with tears in her eyes and tight hugs. Catherine couldn't help but notice how her daughter had blossomed in recent years, radiating a confidence and happiness that went beyond her physical beauty. Catherine then saw Martin dressed in an elegant grey suit. Catherine and Richard were immediately impressed by his demeanour and manners. Martin greeted Evie's parents with a warm smile and a firm handshake. "Your face looks familiar to me," commented Catherine, frowning slightly. "Are you from an important family here in the city?" Martin smiled gently. "No, Mum. Although my family is from this city too, I think our families have never crossed paths." As the guests began to arrive, Catherine noticed something that intrigued her. Martin's relatives, although clearly happy and proud, were dressed more modestly compared to the other guests. She exchanged confused looks with Richard, but they both decided not to comment, focusing on the joy of the moment. The ceremony was beautiful and emotional. Evie, radiant in her simple yet elegant white dress, walked through the garden to the sound of a gentle cello melody recorded by Martin especially for the occasion. The vows exchanged were sincere and moving, bringing tears to many of those present. After the ceremony, the guests headed to the banquet hall for the reception. The atmosphere was filled with laughter, music, and the clinking of champagne glasses. Catherine observed everything with a mix of pride and curiosity, still intrigued by the simplicity of Martin's family, in contrast to the evident sophistication of the young man. It was then that Martin asked for everyone's attention, taking the microphone to give a speech. The hall fell silent, all eyes on the young groom. "Thank you very much, Catherine, for this wonderful party you prepared for us," Martin began, his voice smooth but firm, echoing through the hall. "Thank you to Evie's family and my family for coming, even though everything was last minute. I know that with the exception of my family, no one else here knows me, right? But I know you." A murmur of confusion spread through the hall. The guests exchanged glances, intrigued. Catherine and Richard exchanged perplexed looks. Martin continued, his voice now laden with emotion. "I am Martin. I worked for 2 years as a gardener at Evie's parents' mansion, invisible to you but not to Evie. Evie saw me beyond my sweaty face and my dirty uniform. And we fell in love, and 5 years ago we moved together to the capital, but above all we set out in search of our dreams." Shock was visible on the faces of everyone present. Catherine brought her hand to her mouth, memories of a hard-working young gardener flooding her mind. "At that time, besides being a gardener, I was a musician and had just been accepted as a substitute musician in the capital's orchestra," Martin continued. "Evie had the dream of having her songs recorded by the most famous singers in the country. Today, I am one of the principal musicians in the orchestra, and Evie has managed to have her songs recognised. Tears shone in Evie's eyes as she looked at her husband with love and pride. Martin took her hand, intertwining their fingers before concluding his speech. Today we gather here again to celebrate our love, but also the power of having people who walk in the same direction, who believe in our dreams, who see beyond the superficial. A toast to love. The hall erupted in applause and exclamations of surprise. Catherine and Richard, still astonished, approached the couple. Catherine, with tears in her eyes, hugged Martin. "Forgive me for not recognising you," she whispered, "and thank you for loving my daughter and supporting her in her dreams." Richard, overcoming his initial shock, extended his hand to Martin. "You have proven to be a man of character and determination. I am proud to have you as my son-in-law." The party continued into the night, but now with a different atmosphere. The invisible barriers that separated families from different backgrounds seemed to have dissolved. Lively conversations flowed among all the guests, stories were shared, and new friendships were formed. Evie and Martin danced in the centre of the room, lost in each other's eyes. Their radiant smiles were a testament to the power of true love and perseverance. As the night progressed, Catherine found a moment to talk privately with her daughter. "Evie, dear," she began, her voice full of emotion. "I'm sorry if I ever made you feel like you couldn't share this part of your life with us. I am so proud of the woman you have become and the choices you have made." Evie hugged her mother, feeling years of tension dissolve. "Thank you, Mum. Your support means so much to me." As the celebration came to an end, the guests began to bid farewell, each taking with them not only the memories of a wonderful party, but also a valuable lesson about judging less and understanding more. Evie and Martin set off on their honeymoon, leaving behind a transformed and united family. In the years that followed, the story of the gardener who became a renowned musician and the heiress who followed her heart became a legend in the small coastal town. It served as a constant reminder that there is always more to people than meets the eye if one is willing to see it, and that true love has the power to transcend social barriers and transform lives. If you enjoyed, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment with a number from 1 to 5 to let us know how much you liked the story. Also, watch the video that is currently on your screen. See you soon.